and welcome to another episode of The Nice Knit. The Nice Knit is a podcast where we talk about knitting and it's nice. And on today's episode, we are going through a finished object, a few works in progress, and then I have a non-knitting related project that I'm excited to get started on that you may or may not find a little bit interesting. So I'm going to show you all that. I also have worked on the Liberty puzzle with my friend a little bit. If you are unsure about what I mean by a Liberty puzzle, I talked about it in the last podcast episode. I will link that above, but I'm going to give you an update on that. So stay tuned for that as well if you're interested. Otherwise, let's just dive right in. All right, I want to start with the finished object, obviously, because it is the most exciting to have a finished object. And technically it's finished objects because I finally finished my gloves or my mittens. I started making these several weeks ago. I really thought I was going to get them done in one weekend. I could have. Spoiler alert, I did not. But last podcast episode, I think I had one glove was done except for the thumb. And then I think I also had like part of the other glove, but I can't remember exactly where I was at. But they are officially done. I finished them shortly after filming that video, and I have been wearing the crap out of these. I've worn them almost every day. We've had a few really warm days this fall, but I've worn them pretty much for 2 weeks straight since I finished them. I am in love with these. I love knitting for many reasons. For one, because I needed gloves, so I just made them. But for two, because I could modify the pattern to fit my hands, which is something that I love. I have very short, stubby fingers, and so a lot of times like gloves and mittens are too long for me. Sometimes not, but a lot of times when you buy like just like generic mittens at the store, they're gonna have like the thumb is gonna be like that much longer than my actual thumb, or like the fingers are gonna be too long. And so I used the pattern almost to a T, except I started decreases sooner than what the pattern recommended. And this is the World's Simplest Mittens by Tin Can Knits, I believe. I will link the pattern below. It's a free pattern, which is great. And it has all kinds of different sizes of mittens, and it also gives you instructions for all different types of yarn. So you don't have to just stick with DK weight like I did. But look how cute they are. They're so comfortable. They fit really well. They don't like slide down. I'm very, very excited about these mittens. I love knitting. So this is the only thing that I've really completed recently. I'm still in the school slog. We're coming up on finals, so it's actually getting worse. I love my job, but I'm getting tired. I know all teachers can probably understand when I say I'm ready for the break, because it's been a lot lately, but that's okay because I have knitting to keep me sane. So that is like the most exciting thing that I finished. It's also the only thing that I finished recently, which is probably why it's so exciting, but also because it's going to be cold. They're calling for snow on Friday, I think. So I'm excited to have some mittens to wear. And what I'm probably going to do as the weather gets colder, because these are really good for like 30s and 40s weather, but they're probably not going to be that warm when it comes to like colder temps. But I have a bigger pair of like fleece lined mittens that I think I can wear these underneath. Like I can put these on and then put the fleece lined mittens on top, and I'll be nice and toasty when I walk the mile from the parking lot to the building. It's not actually a mile, it just feels like a mile on campus. If you've ever parked at the university that I work at, parking sucks there, and you generally, unless you get there super early in the morning, are going to have to walk a ways in order to find a parking spot. But anyways, so that is my completed project, completed my gloves. The yarn is Eddie Bauer Woolpaca. It is Woolpaca worsted. I want to say this is just like an olive green color, but I don't remember exactly what the colorway is. Eddie Bauer Woolpaca and Woolpaca worsted was a Joann's brand. May she rest in peace. So we can't find it new anymore, but I'm sure there are people reselling this yarn. So if you like this color and like this yarn, I say it's really good for gloves. Like it has a really nice feel for gloves. It can be a little bit more itchy if you knit it into like a garment. So just keep that in mind. But all right, moving on, what's next? Okay, next works in progress. I'm just gonna give you a quick update on my mom's sweater. Again, you cannot tell that I have made any progress on mom's sweater, but I have. I've been knitting the body very, very slowly. I feel like the body always takes me the longest because it is just, and not in time knitting, in motivation to knit, because it is just endless stockinette. And I really like working on the yoke. I think the yoke is my favorite part to knit of a sweater. So we're still in endless stockinette. I'm gonna keep trying to chug away on this. Mom, no promises on when you'll get this, which you already know. But it is getting closer. It now looks like a sweater. You could technically wear this. I don't know why you would want to, but you could technically wear this. I think there is like a style where like the sweater like goes over, like doesn't cover the boobs. It's just like right here, and then it's long sleeves. So we're almost there. You're almost in style. But yeah, also I had a yarn accident where like the top layers of my yarn, I'm using a center pole. The top layers of my yarn came off of my yarn ball, and now this is just a tangled mess. And I spent a long time trying to untangle it the other day. And I think I may just have to keep like fighting inch by inch through here. And then I may just have to cut my yarn and like rewind this and start over, but it'll be fine. We'll survive. But yeah, I'm knitting this in, that is not the right yarn ball. Oh yes, you think I would know this by now. I'm knitting this in Drops Air, and I'm not exactly sure what the color is, but it is color 51. So yeah, super soft. It is an alpaca blend. A medium thick blown yarn made of baby alpaca and merino wool with like a tiny bit of polyamide because it is blown. So it has to have that like polyamide mesh essentially to hold it all together. But yeah, that's mom's sweater. Have been working on it. You just can't tell. And then the final knitting thing I want to go over is my cotton candy sweater. I have made quite a bit of progress on my cotton candy sweater. If you've been around the channel for a while, as in since last spring, you will recognize the cotton candy sweater. This sweater was inspired by Breathing Yarn. She has a Polaroid sweater, so it's essentially like an off-white sweater with the Polaroid logo colors across the chest, and I love that sweater. It's probably my favorite sweater of hers just because I love the whole vibe it gives off. So I endeavored to recreate it in my own way with the cotton candy sweater. So what I did here was I took the Grace sweater by Adorable Knits. I took that and I kind of improvised it to make it my own, and I started creating the cotton candy sweater. And I'm calling it the cotton candy sweater because the yarn that I am using for it is Knit and Crochet Cloudpaca, and it is in the color cotton candy. So the majority of this sweater is in the colorway cotton candy. The rest of these, except for the yellow, is the Knit and Crochet Cloudpaca. The yellow is actually Drops Air in a yellow color just because I couldn't get my hands on Knit and Crochet Cloudpaca in yellow. I don't know if they made it or if by the time I was buying this, it was already, like Joann's was going out of business. So I just think I probably missed out on it. I think it had probably already sold by the time that I was willing to spend the money on it. But I started, this is essentially self-drafted, it's not the right word. It's improvised using patterns that other experts have drafted. But I freaking love this sweater. I'm so excited to wear it. Let me stand up. The Grace sweater that this is modeled off of has a 1x1 neckline or a 1x1 rib neckline and then 1x1 rib hem. But I liked, like I kind of did a test knit with this, and I really liked how like squishy and soft this and like loose but not so loose this 2x2 rib is in this yarn. So I did a 2x2 rib here. I made my raglan like spacing. I think I did 3 stitches in between my increases for my raglan sleeves. And so I kind of just like tried to make this like a comfortable kind of chunky sweater that's still like, because it's only worsted weight yarn, it's still pretty thin, but I wanted to give it more of that like chunky, like substantial feel to it. And then when I got somewhere on the chest, I thought that was a good place to to start my version of the Polaroid stripes that Breathing Yarn did. And I just kind of went with a rainbow vibe. The Polaroid logo is also like a rainbow vibe, but it's different. It's more of like a vintage oranges and yellows look. I went for more like pastel excitement, obviously, as you can see. And then I think I did 5 rows of each color, and then eventually switched back to the pink, the cotton candy color. And then I did it here too. You can see maybe a little bit. I did a row of purl stitches, and then 2x2 rib. And then I bound off in 2x2 rib. Let me tell you, I love Italian bind off. I used to not like it because I did not understand it, but now I love Italian bind off. I think it is super like rhythmic. It's very soothing to do Italian bind off, but Italian bind off is done with 1x1 rib. And so I had to look up a different way to do like a sewn bind off for 2x2 rib. And I found several good tutorials, and like they were easy to follow. They were great. I did not enjoy that process near as much because it's not as rhythmic. 1x1 rib, when you're doing the Italian bind off or any kind of like sewn bind off, I believe, because you're doing every other like knit and purl, your pattern for sewing it off repeats every 2 stitches. And so it's very easy to get into like a good rhythmic or like a good rhythm of it, and you don't really have to pay that much attention. In 2x2 rib, every 4 stitches repeats, and it's not like you deal with 1 and go to 3, deal with 2 and go to 4 over and over and over again like it is with Italian bind off. It's like 1 and then 2 and then 1 and then 4. Like it's not, there's no good like rhythm to it. So it was difficult, but I did it. I think it made a pretty nice stretchy bind off. I could see like it has like a teeny tiny bit of puckering, but I think that was just me trying to figure out my tension. But I genuinely don't think you can really notice it or see it. Like I don't know that anybody would notice that it was there. But I'm pretty happy with the way the body looks. I just need to pick up stitches for my sleeves and then work through that. And then I'm gonna do the same kind of 2x2 rib with that same bind off for the sleeves. I'm going for puffy sleeves. So I gave myself a lot of underarm room here, and I made the sleeves pretty big, and like this goes pretty far down on my armpit, just like this shirt does, because I wanted that a little bit of volume on my sleeves. Then I'll do a rapid decrease at the cuff, and then I will bind off. So I'm really excited to see how this turns out and to wear it. Like I think I'll have this ready to wear. I'm not gonna give you a date because I won't hit that deadline, because I never hit knitting deadlines, but I feel like before the end of the winter, I will have this to wear, and I hope to wear it to work a lot. Right now, I'm avoiding picking up the sleeves because I know that there is a trick, and I've done it before successfully. There is a trick to picking up your sleeves without having a gap. So like I think I pretty successfully did it on this sweater where like there's no gap here where I picked up the sleeves. And it's not like I had to like sew it together later. Like the way that I picked it up and the way that I believe it's Dorothy from Adorable Knits teaches you how to like pick up your stitches here, it prevents that gap from happening. Like you pick up 2 extra stitches on each side and then you knit them together on your second time around. But I can't remember which stitches to pick up or like which like area through here to pick up. And I can't remember which way you knit them together, if it's through the back loop or through the front. And I'm being lazy and not looking it up. So that's why I've been kind of putting off picking up the stitches for the sleeves. Also, I did not use barber cord when I took these stitches off the needles because I did not have or know that I am obsessed with barber cord at this point. And so I'm also not really excited about like picking up each stitch individually, even though it'll take me like 2 minutes to do this and I should just do it and get it going. But we're at least making progress. I feel like I've made more progress here than I have in a while on anything that I've knit. So that's very exciting. I also, something I do want to add, I did do decreases. I did about 4 decreases on the sides of the sweater. I did not measure or count. I just decreased whenever I felt like it. Like if I like eyeballed it, it looked like I had knitted about an inch, I did a decrease. Same thing over here. And you may, I don't know how, you're kind of far away from me. You may be able to see these like stitches. But yeah, no, I just like, I knitted this based on vibes. I did not measure a whole lot. I did measure these. I was very particular about my stripes. Other than that, vibes. That's what I did here. This is a rolled over neckline. I love a rolled over collar. That's the word. I couldn't think of collar earlier. I love a rolled over collar. It's one of my favorite neckline features. I just think it makes it a little softer. And I just think it's really cute. But that is it for knitted projects. So that is every update that I have for you on knitting. I have kind of fallen back out of knitting a little bit in the last couple of weeks just because the school semester has ramped up. And I've just been very tired and honestly sick. I keep catching the illnesses that all my students bring to class. I call them my adult snot monsters because they like, stay home. I will meet with you later or via Zoom. Please stay home. But I have not been feeling the best. So even though usually I would knit when I was sick, this was like headache sick. So I didn't really want to open my eyes and also didn't really feel like trying to knit with my eyes closed kind of thing. But I can feel it. We're getting into like winter break is approaching. Finals week is coming up. I'll have a 2-week break before I need to be back in the office. But in that 2 weeks, I plan on knitting a lot. I want to record some YouTube videos. I want to do, every year I kind of want to do a yearly wrap-up video where I show you everything that I've knitted in a year. I also want to get my Ravelry page updated with all my projects. So that like that's on the to-do list. And then in general, like I would just like to get more knitting done. I have some gifts I would like to at least have like progress made on. I want to make something or finish the thing that I've started for my dad. I also would like to knit something for, like I've got a couple friends that have requested knits or that I like am in the progress of working on, like Hosanna and her birthday socks that were due in August. It is November. But in the meantime, something else that has been top of mind is this saddle. So I'm gonna back up. I don't know. I don't know how much of this you can see, to be honest. But this is a saddle that was gifted to me. So the manager at the barn that I board my 2 horses at had the saddle lying around and was never going to use it. The saddle is my size. It is very old. I don't know how old. It is not in the best shape. It is a fairly cheap saddle from what I can tell. Like I don't know what brand it is, but it needs some work if it's ever going to be rideable again. I don't know that I will ever feel comfortable riding in this because the leather is pretty old, but I am going to replace the necessary components in terms of like safety components. But again, I don't know that I'll ever get this saddle to the point where I'm comfortable putting it on a horse. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But some things that need to be fixed or stitched or repaired. First and foremost, we've got a lot of like tears and rips. I think there's a big crack somewhere up here. Yeah, right through here. There's a big crack. There's a big rip here that could just be stitched down. The leather desperately needs to be conditioned. We've got some spots, I think it's right here, that has dry rot on it. So that is just not going to ever look great. So I may have to do some kind of repair here. I don't know what that will look like. But the functional repairs that need to be done that are probably going to prevent this saddle from ever being usable if I can't fix them. First, I need to fix the billets. So those of you who don't know a whole lot about horses or horseback riding, these are the straps that tie your saddle to your horse, essentially. Like we hook up the girth or cinch, depending on your discipline, which is essentially like the belt that goes underneath the horse's belly, to here. This leather is extremely old and dry. And so if I were to put this saddle on a horse right now, this would break, which means the saddle would come off, which is not safe, obviously. So these would need to be replaced. Billets need to be replaced on both sides. I think one has already broken off on this side. There are only 2. There should be 3. So that is already like not great. That I am pretty confident that I can replace. Billets are a normal thing to replace if they start getting weak or worn down. So that I'm not really worried about replacing, unless the component that the billet's attached to is too far gone. Then that's an indicator that the saddle will not be usable. The other reason why I'm a little hesitant about whether or not the saddle will ever be usable is the padding on the bottom side of the saddle. So in some English saddles, this is a jump saddle, all of this flocking, which is the padding inside of these two pads, is replaceable. And usually there's like a spot through here where you can like open this up and replace the flocking, which is usually wool. It's usually a type of wool flocking. So you can replace and build up and shape this to fit your horse's back. This is extremely hard and worn down. Like you can tell this has not been taken care of. It's got like gaps in the flocking. It's very rough. It's got divots where it sat on the saddle rack for too long. Like it's not, I would not want to put this on a horse and sit on that horse's back because I think this would be really bad for a horse's back. But this is sewn. Like, I don't know how much you can see that, but through here, all of this in here is sewn. There is not, to what I can feel, there is not like an opening or a gap where I can very easily access the flocking to replace the flocking. So what I would need to do is I would need to rip out the stitches here and then pull the wool out and then put new replacement flocking in, which sounds fairly easy, except I would have to then shape the flocking to fit whatever horse's back I want the saddle to be on. And that is where it gets a little bit more complicated because I am not a saddle fitter. There are people whose entire careers are fitting saddles to horses and like shaping the flocking and shaping the saddle to fit the horse. I'm not one of those people. I have no experience with that. I'm actually fairly new to the English discipline. I grew up riding Western, so like I don't really know a whole lot about this, but I'm going to try to replace the flocking in here. And I may, if the rest of the saddle starts looking really good, there's not a lot of dry rot, like I am able to, this is actually a saddle I think I would like to ride in at least just leisurely when I'm riding around the barn, like not like competition or anything like that, but just like have a saddle to ride in. I may employ a professional to replace this flocking. But first I need to make sure the rest of the saddle is worth spending the money to replace the flocking here. But we'll see. I'm not really sure. It's also a saddle. So this part of the saddle right here, this goes on the horse's withers, or it's like the peak of where their shoulders are, if you don't know a whole lot about a horse. This is not adjustable. Like my other saddles, this is adjustable because some horses have like wide withers, so you want a wider set, or some have really narrow withers, and you want it to fit that horse's back properly. Otherwise, it's going to cause sores. It's going to be very uncomfortable for the horse. They're going to become saddle sour, so they're not going to want to be ridden. So we want to make sure this is comfortable for the horse. This is a fixed, I'm forgetting the name of this, but this is fixed. It's not adjustable. And so at the end of all of this, I don't even know that this will fit any of my horses. But I also know that if I can fix this saddle, I think it would be fun to fix this saddle, especially because the saddle itself was free. It's not in terrible condition in terms of like the leather. Like the majority of this leather is still in decent shape, except for this like nice dry rotted chunk here. Is it worth fixing? Probably not. Am I going to have a good time attempting to fix it? Absolutely. Am I doing this purely for hobby purposes? Yes. At the end of the day, I'm going to get this saddle cleaned up. If I don't feel like it's safe or worth like spending the money to fix the flocking, or like the billets just they aren't going to work out, like if it just is not worth it, I am not going to get rid of this saddle. I don't know that the leather is good enough to repurpose into like a bag. It may be like a small bag. So that would be a consideration, is repurposing the leather that's on the saddle. The other option is to use it as a decor piece. I've actually had it sitting around my house for the last couple of weeks, and it's kind of just fun having a saddle in the house. So I may clean this up and use it as like a type of decor, but I haven't decided yet. But I'm having fun with it. I actually think it would be a pretty comfortable leather saddle, to be honest. But I need to figure out how to repair. Honestly, repairing the seat is the least of my concerns. It's more repairing the safety and the comfort of the horse. I'm okay sitting on, like, being slightly uncomfortable. I'm not okay with my horse being uncomfortable. So we'll see. But I'll keep you posted if I, make any progress on this saddle. I have ordered the leather stuff because I did not have things for the leather, so I can start reviving and moisturizing all the leather components, start pulling out the billets. But I want to moisturize all of this before I start digging up in this area, because I'm afraid I'm going to crack or rip the leather because it is very dry. Excuse me. It was sitting in the barn covered in like 2 inches of dust. For years. It's been there. It's been there since I started. I think I've been boarding there for over 3 years now. And this saddle has been sitting just out in the open in the barn for that entire time, like covered in dust. Nothing, like, not a blanket on it, nothing keeping it clean or dry. Like, it was just out in the elements. It was in the barn, so it didn't like get wet, but it definitely, like, cold to hot fluctuations, high humidity, low humidity. So it has not been properly taken care of. And so I'm not going to be too disappointed if I don't get it back to usable condition, because, I'm already starting with not a great saddle to begin with, and like with not great care being taken over the last several years. So it'll be fine. But I enjoy having it around. I think I'm going to have a good time trying to just like problem solve and repair some of this leather work. But yeah, it should be a good time, at least for me. But I'll let you know. It may be a while before I get to any of this, because it's going to take some research. But yeah, so that is my final update that I wanted to give you. It is early morning. I actually need to go to work. So it's not super early. It's early for me. I need to go to work, so I'm going to let you go. But thank you for tagging along. If you have any thoughts about any of these projects, please let me know. What are you working on? Are you starting any projects? Are you gift knitting? That's actually what I really want to know. Are you gift knitting this year? Because I am not in the way that I used to gift knit or used to try to gift knit. Like, I have knits that I would like to gift, but I'm not setting a Christmas deadline this year, and I'm not knitting for a bunch of people. So are you gift knitting? If so, what kinds of things are you gift knitting? Do you think you're going to get it done by Christmas? Let me know. Otherwise, if you liked this video, please consider giving it a like. If you want to hang out more, please consider subscribing. Otherwise, I hope you have an amazing day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Okay, bye! I forgot to update you on the Liberty puzzle, so here is what that looks like. We have made quite a lot of progress on it. Slow but steady. We're getting there. This one is taking a little longer than the other one, just because there's not like huge chunks of color differences like there were in the other one. But we're doing great. I'm having a good time. Yeah. There's your Liberty puzzle update. Woohoo.